So this is going to be a quick tutorial about how to format quotations using parenthetical and signal phrase citations in MLA 8 format. By the end of this video, you should be able to differentiate between parenthetical and signal phrase citations, correctly punctuate a direct quotation, create an accurate parenthetical citation for most sources, employ active verbs and signal phrases, and create a signal phrase citation, again, for most sources. So there are basically two ways to cite information that isn't common knowledge or that you did find in a primary or secondary source. You can use parenthetical or signal phrase citation. The easiest way is probably just to use a parenthetical citation, since it's something that we've already practiced and you should be familiar with. So after the last word of a quote, paraphrase, or summary, you are going to insert the second set of quotation marks, but no period. Next, you're going to enter a space and an open or left-facing parenthesis. This marks the actual start of your parenthetical citation. Then you'll insert the first word or phrase of the works cited entry for this source. Most likely, this will be the author's last name, but it could be the first word of an article title as well. If you are using an article title, be sure to put it in quotation marks. If the title is long, more than just a few words, just use the first word followed by an ellipsis. That's the three little dots shown there. Now you're ready to include the page number if there is one. If there isn't, just move on to the final parenthesis. Finally, we are ready to end this thing. The period goes after the final parenthesis. This is the only place that the period will be in this entire sentence. The only time punctuation will go inside the quotation mark is if the original sentence ends in a question mark or in an exclamation point. These are the only times you will have punctuation inside those quotation marks. So the second way that you can introduce and attribute your information is with a signal phrase citation. Signal phrase citation uses three basic parts: a signal phrase, an active verb, and then the quote or paraphrase. So a signal phrase can either be directly connected to your quote, or it can stand on its own. A signal phrase consists of two major elements: source information and an active verb. The purpose of a signal phrase is to indicate that what comes next is not your own thoughts or words, so therefore it's identifying the source. When you do this, the first time you're going to include the author's entire first name. So for example, author Kevin Grace. If there isn't an author, then just use the article title and be sure to put it in quotes. So for example, an article titled Fist Bumps for Structure. One little note about source identification. Try avoiding using the cliche according to. It's just, no. We aren't in elementary school. Just don't do it. Next, you're going to use an active verb to connect your source information to your quote, paraphrase, or transition material. You want your evidence to do something, not just sit there. It needs to argue or imply or indicate or some other action. Check out the PDF on PowerSchool that contains a massive list of verbs you could use for an active verb. So 2 notes. First, you need to make sure that your signal phrase with your source identification and your active verb are in subject-verb agreement. You need to make sure that that subject, the author or identifying information, matches the correct verb tense for your active verb. Hands bumps each other doesn't make sense. Make sure you're using present or past tense verbs consistently throughout. Last caution. Never use says as your active verb. Says is forbidden. Unless you're quoting someone who uses the word says in their quote, you don't need to use it. Find a different active verb. Now it's time to move on to insert the quote or paraphrase. If you're using a paraphrase, you don't need quotation marks. But if any part of what you are quoting is word for word from the source, you have to put quotation marks around the word for word parts. Just like Queen Bee sang, If you used it, you should have put some quotes on it, or something like that. So now let's look at what this looks like in reality. We have our sentence. Child sleep expert August Arch recommends using, quote, as many stuffed animals as possible to ensure the best quality sleep, end quote. In this sentence, we identify the author and even throw in a little bit about his credibility. We use an active verb, recommends, and we add in the quote. Notice that if there isn't a page number, there is no parenthetical citation needed at the end. Since we've already introduced the author or article title in the signal phrase, we don't need a parenthetical citation at the end. However, if there is a page number, then we do have to add the parenthetical citation at the end, which is formatted exactly like it was before. So now you should be able to insert signal phrases and parenthetical citations into your paper on your own. As always, remember to cite your sources.